Why do we celebrate Krishna Janmashtami? Many thousands of years ago, the city of Mathura in northern India was ruled by a powerful and evil demon called Kansa. With his father-in-law and Magadhan king Jarasandha's support, Kansa had become almost invincible. His parents, his people, and even people of other kingdoms feared him. They were terrified of Kansa and tired of his cruelty. It seemed that there was no one on earth brave and strong enough to defeat Kansa. But while enjoying all that fear that he incited, there was one person in his life whom he dearly loved. Ugrasena's brother Devak had many daughters, but amongst them, Devaki was the apple of King Kansa's eye. Devaki was good, kind, and gentle. As she reached womanhood, Kansa desired to marry her off to a man deserving of her and wanted to see her settled and happy. Hence, a Swayamvar was held to find a befitting groom. This event was attended by many eligible men from royal families. Among them was also Vasudev, son of the Yadav king Shursena. At the end of the competitions, when it was decided that Prince Vasudev would be the one to marry Princess Devaki, King Kansa's happiness knew no bounds. Vasudev was a good and noble man who was a follower of Vishnu. Kansa, despite his evil ways, held Vasudev in great respect. So, Kansa rejoiced at Devaki's marriage with Vasudev and celebrated the wedding with everyone else. The marriage ceremony completed, the newlyweds had to set out on the road to Gokul, where the ancestral Yadav clan home was. Kansa gifted them 400 elephants and 100 chariots. The royal army was also asked to escort them all the way. As a final gesture of love and affection, Kansa proclaimed that he would drive Vasudev and Devaki's chariot himself. What happened en route completely changed the festive situation. Suddenly, the sky grew dark and a heavenly voice spoke.
The marriage of Devaki and Vasudev shall be blessed, for of this union shall be born 8 sons,
said the voice.
But let the demon Kansa beware, you will die at the hands of Devaki's 8th son.
Kansa, angered by the fact that the sister on whom he had showered so much affection would mother his killer, grabbed his sword and lunged at her. But Vasudev intervened and prayed to him politely. Prince Kansa, you are the descendant of the Bhoj dynasty. You are a brave man. It does not fit your bravery that you yourself are ready to kill your sister. She is a woman and has just got married. She has not done any harm to you. If you fear her children, I promise that I will give all her children to you. Thus assured by truth abiding Vasudev's words, Kansa dropped the idea of killing Devaki.
Throw them into prison,
he thundered, pointing at Devaki and Vasudev.
Let them be watched every minute of the day for the rest of their lives.
Kansa's demon soldiers surrounded Devaki and Vasudev and took them into the deepest, most secure dungeon in Kansa's palace. Devaki and Vasudev lived in the dungeon, watched night and day by Kansa's soldiers. Many years passed. Devaki and Vasudev's first child was born, and as per his promise, Vasudev gave his first newborn child to Kansa. Pleased by Vasudev's abidance to his promise, Kansa said,
Your 8th son will be my enemy, so I will kill only your 8th son. Take the child back.
At the same time, Singing in the Lord's praise, Devarshi Narada appeared there and said,
O Kansa, in view of rising atrocities of demons, Lord Narayana himself will take birth in Yaduvansh. Besides him, all the cowboys and all others who belong to Yadav clan are none other than the gods in human guise. The gods are making massive preparations to exterminate evil kings, and as a lotus has only 8 petals and no one can mark out its 8th petal, similarly, Devaki will have 8 children and no one would be able to find out who is the 8th.
Saying this, Devarshi Narada disappeared. Kansa got a firm belief that all the Yaduvanshis were gods and that Lord Vishnu himself would take birth as Vasudeva and Devaki's son to kill him. So, he mercilessly killed the newborn child immediately. Year after year, Devaki gave birth to 5 more sons, one after another. Kansa killed each child within minutes of their birth. When Devaki was expecting her 7th child, Vasudeva prayed long and hard to Vishnu. Save this child, he prayed. Don't let Kansa kill all our sons. Lord Vishnu heard his prayers and through his Yogmaya, magically transferred the baby into the womb of Rohini, another wife of Vasudeva. Soon, Rohini gave birth to the baby, Devaki's 7th son. He was Shesh Narayana himself. Meanwhile, Devaki and Vasudeva told Kansa that their 7th child had been born dead. Very soon after, Devaki began expecting her 8th child, the one, it had been said, who would kill Kansa. Kansa's fears and melancholy increased since then. Fear gripped him now that his death was very near. Kansa doubled the number of guards on the prison and waited anxiously for the birth of this child. Devaki's 8th son was born at midnight on a dark and stormy night in the month of Shravan. The baby was as dark as the clouds that covered the sky that night. He was therefore called Krishna, which means dark or black. Vasudeva's elder brother Nandlal, who was the head of the Gopa tribe, resided in Gokul with his queen Yashoda. Yashoda was also with the child at this point. The child in her womb was none other than Devi Yogmaya, who is said to be the source of all of Lord Vishnu's power. Meanwhile, Vasudeva and Devaki waited in fear for Kansa to appear, but suddenly all was silent. The guards at the prison door had fallen asleep, as had every living creature in the great palace. Suddenly, the dark dungeon was filled with a shining light, and once again there came a voice out of the sky.
Take your son to Gokul, across the river Yamuna, to the house of Nand.
Said the voice to Vasudeva.
Nand's wife has just had a baby. Leave your son with her and bring her child back to Devaki.
The light vanished, and the prison became as dark and dreary as before. But the doors stood open, the locks broken, the guards snoring with their heads on their weapons. Vasudeva's chains fell away from his ankles. In great wonder, he took up his son in his arms and walked out of the prison into the dark and stormy night. Vasudeva walked through the pouring rain, holding his newborn baby close to his chest, safe from the wind and the wet, trusting in the divine voice. But when he came to the river Yamuna, he saw that the great river was in flood. The bridge had been washed away, and no boat would be able to cross the furious flood. Vasudeva was in despair. How would he cross the river? Yet, he had to obey the divine voice. Vasudev stepped into the angry waters, the baby held high above his head. The river rose higher and higher, the waves grew ever more furious, and Vasudev feared for his life. But the newborn baby laughed and put its tiny foot out of its swaddling sheets and touched the waves. All at once, the river stopped raging, the waves grew still, and the water level subsided. Just then, Lord Vishnu Sheshnag, the giant multi-headed snake, rose from the river and spread its 5 hoods over the father and the baby, and escorted them safely to the other side of the dark river. Vasudev climbed out onto the far bank of the Yamuna. Silently, he marveled at the wonders he had seen, but hurried on to find the house of Nand, chief of the cowherds of Gokul. In Gokul, all was silent except for the pouring rain. People slept safe and dry inside their homes. Vasudev found his way to Nand's house. Vasudev shook him awake, explained the prophecy, and told him what the voice had asked him to do. Nand led him unquestioningly to his newborn child. A lamp burned low in the room where Nand's wife Yashoda slept with her newborn baby daughter. Silently, Vasudev entered the room. He laid his baby son down beside Yashoda and picked up her baby daughter. Just as silently as he had come, Vasudev returned to Mathura with the baby girl. In Mathura, all was as he had left it. Everyone slept deep in an enchanted sleep. The prison guards snored over their weapons. The prison doors stood wide open. The palace was silent. Only Devaki awaited anxiously for Vasudev's safe return. Vasudev entered the prison and laid the baby girl beside Devaki. The prison doors shut on their own. Vasudev's chains fastened themselves around his ankles, and the prison guards woke up, stretching and yawning, amazed that they had fallen so sound asleep. The guards hurried to the prison door to make sure their prisoners were still safe and secure, and saw Devaki holding a newborn baby in her arms. "The eighth child has been born!" cried the guards. A messenger went running to summon the demon king, Kansa. Kansa came at once, angry yet afraid. He flung open the prison doors and snatched the baby from Devaki's arms.
"The baby is a girl,"
said Devaki. "How can she harm you, brother?" asked Vasudev. "Will you not spare us at least one child?" But Kansa was not to be moved.
"This is your 8th child,"
roared Kansa.
"Girl or boy, the child must die."
But the baby slipped out of his hands and, shining with a glorious light, flew out of the prison window. All that remained was a laugh and a sweet voice which said,
"Kansa, you cannot kill me. I am a Devi, born as a baby to fool you. Your destroyer has been born as foretold, and he is safe. You will die at the hands of Devaki's 8th son."
Kansa was furious, but there was nothing he could do.
"You will rot in prison forever,"
he roared at Devaki and Vasudev.
"I will find your 8th child and kill him, no matter what it takes."
But Krishna was safe in Gokul with Nand and Yashoda, who had accepted him as their son. He grew up along with Balram and other kids in the neighborhood, being mischievous at times by stealing butter from his house or from the neighborhood. Krishna grew up and fought all the demons that Kansa sent after him, one by one, and when he was 12 years old, as per the prophecy, killed Kansa himself. Then he freed his parents and grandfather from prison. It is said that Krishna was the great Lord Vishnu himself in human form, born to rid of Kansa from this world. This legend is celebrated on Janmashtami by people keeping fasts, singing devotional songs of love for Krishna, and keeping a vigil into the night. After Krishna's midnight hour birth, forms of baby Krishna are bathed and clothed, then placed in a cradle. The devotees then break their fast by sharing food and sweets. Some communities celebrate Krishna's legends, such as him being a Makhan Chor. Women draw tiny footprints outside their house and kitchen, walking towards their house, as a symbolism for Krishna's journey into their homes.